Alright, welcome back to Antoinette Reads. I'm Antoinette, and we'll be continuing with Falling for You by Opalcitys. Please feel free to read along. If you want to, I'll put the link of the story in the description box. Don't hesitate to comment and subscribe or leave a like, just so I know that you guys are still loving it. And yeah, let's get started. Chapter 9, Slow Realizations. The idea is to put the perfume on, not bathe in it. Hermione rolled her eyes, ignoring the boy's comment as she continued to get ready for the day. Although herself and Draco seemed to have progressed a little in the last week, it seemed as if every time they took a step forward, they took 2 steps back. It was so unfortunate Draco had to be so immature, considering they now had to practically live together. She'd hoped he at least stopped being so argumentative. Then again, who was she kidding? It was Malfoy she was talking about. "Oh, shut up, you! I barely sprayed a thing," she muttered in return. "It's a good thing I'm not too bothered about what you think of me, or I'd be highly offended right now." "Then why can I smell it from all the way over here?" he replied, wrinkling his nose. "What scent even is that? 40-year-old mother of 5? Honestly, it wasn't surprising he broke so many girls' hearts with the way he spoke to people. "It's supposed to be rose, actually," she scoffed, tossing the bottle onto her bed. "Revolting," Draco smiled sweetly, before turning around to walk back to his seat. The boy was going to Hogsmeade to meet Blaise at the 3 Broomsticks later that day. Hermione was tagging along for the journey, planning to pick up a new quill as her old one had broken. Draco, however, had given her strict instructions to be gone before Blaise arrived, knowing he'd probably tease him all afternoon. "Hey, it snowed last night," Hermione exclaimed as she drew the curtains, gesturing out to the window at the white sheet of frost. Draco was immediately at her side, his eyes widening as he watched the snow drift down lightly from the sky. Hermione was baffled to see a huge, goofy grin spread across his face. "You like snow?" she laughed, raising an eyebrow slightly. Draco reddened. "I suppose," he murmured, his face flushing pink. "Stupid question, really. Who doesn't like snow?" Hermione couldn't help but smile a little, in surprise. He looked so different when he blushed, less stern. "It's okay to embrace your inner softness sometimes," Hermione assured, letting out a laugh when Draco gave her a shove. "Very funny." Despite spring arriving, the weather had remained freezing, leaving the two with no choice but to wrap up warm for Hogsmeade. "I hate this bloody scarf," Draco grunted, adjusting it aggressively around his neck. "Why don't they make them out of a more comfortable material instead of wasting my time?" Hermione snorted out a laugh. "You certainly have an opinion on a lot of things," she said. "At least you brought a scarf." The boy glanced at her sideways as she rubbed her shoulders, plastering a devious smirk across his face. "Is this the part where I'm supposed to offer you mine?" he asked. "Because I can't deal with the itchiness." "You know, I'm beginning to see why girls don't stay with you that long," Hermione scoffed, watching Draco's eyes flicker menacingly. "Oh, please. It's me that leaves them, not the other way around," Draco laughed as Hermione shook her head. "Well, isn't that admirable?" Hogsmeade was busy that afternoon. Children ran around excitedly as they played in the snow, whilst the adults bustled along the narrow streets in and out of shops. Hermione gazed around in awe. "It looks beautiful," she breathed, glancing at the boy beside her. Draco, too, was staring wishfully around him, eyes bright. The village was coated in a blanket full of fluffy white snow, trailing all the way down to the bottom of the hill and beyond. "Hey, Malfoy!" Hermione suddenly called. "Hmm?" he replied, tearing his eyes away from the scene and turning to face the girl before. "Hey!" Draco found himself with a face full of snow, listening to Hermione giggle from across the pathway. He wiped it from his eyes, shaking his head with a mischievous grin. "You're gonna regret that, Granger." As quick as lightning, the boy scooped up a pile of snow and hurled it directly at the squealing girl, laughing as she returned one back. The two raced around the path in fits of laughter as they dodged and dived each other's attacks. Passers-by gave them strange glances, probably wondering why two 18-year-olds were running around like little kids. Eventually they slowed to a halt, their faces flushed pink as they caught their breath. They stared at each other for a while, not really knowing what had just happened. "You've got a bit of snow in your hair," Draco panted, grinning slightly as she tried to pat it away. "Oh, and there." "A bit?" she laughed, beginning to pick some out with her fingers. "Where is it?" "There," he replied, pointing vaguely at the top of her head. "Where?" "There." "Here?" "Oh, I'll get it," he huffed. He combed his fingers through a strand of her dark hair, pulling out a clump of snow and flicking it away. Hermione found herself holding her breath when he brushed her face by accident. His hand was soft but cold. Draco stared at her in slight confusion, his hand lingering in the air next to her face. Ahem! The two jolted backwards, spinning round in surprise to find Blaise leaning against a lamp-post with the raised eyebrow. "Did I interrupt something?" he grinned, watching their faces turn red. "Darn it." "No, let's go," Draco muttered, avoiding eye contact with his friend as they trudged up the street, leaving a completely bewildered Hermione behind. Blaise glanced over his shoulder, giving the girl a thumbs up before Draco led him away down an alleyway. She let out a breath she wasn't even aware she'd been holding. What the hell was all that? Why did she feel all queasy in her stomach? "I need to get back to the castle." Once her quill was purchased, she made her way back to Hogwarts alone, wondering if Draco was going to be mad about Blaise. For some odd reason, he didn't want his friend to see them together, but Blaise didn't seem to have minded. In fact, the boy had looked pretty pleased with himself. "Okay, students, to finish off our lesson today, I will be showing you a few potions that I would like you to identify." Professor Slughorn smiled as the class gathered around the table. Hermione peered across the potions classroom that afternoon, not really paying attention to what her professor was saying. Instead, she'd been making awkward eye contact with Draco and Blaise the entire hour. What are they playing at? Blaise had been constantly whispering things into Draco's ear all lesson, to which he would shoot a dirty look and then quickly glance over at Hermione. And so it would repeat. "And here we have our Mortentia potion," Professor Slughorn began, giving it a stir. "Its fragrance is that of what one is attracted to, as you learned last year, if you were in my potions club." The professor checked his watch before smiling round once more. "Goodness, I believe it is the end of the lesson. We'll continue this next time. Off you go." The students poured out the door along with Malfoy, leaving Hermione alone as she collected her things together. As she reached for her notebook, her arm collided with the cauldron beside her. "Oh, Merlin," she muttered, as some of the Amortentia splashed onto her robes. She shook it off quickly before bustling out the door. She didn't have time to be faffing around. As she walked down the hall to her dorm, people began stopping in their tracks to sniff the air. She watched in confusion as people started to stare after her wishfully. Weird. The girl finally entered the common room, hanging her robes on the rack. Draco was laying lazily across the length of the sofa, flicking through a Quidditch manual. "Afternoon." She walked past the kitchen. The boy wrinkled his nose in disgust. "Granger, didn't I tell you to stop wearing that godforsaken perfume?" Hermione frowned. "I haven't put any more on. What are you talking about?" Draco rolled his eyes, shutting his book with a thud. "I'm not thick. I can smell it, and it's even stronger this time." Hermione stood in complete bewilderment for a second before her mind clicked into place. The potion! No, surely not. That was impossible. Maybe he just liked the smell of roses after all? Yeah, that was it. He probably thought it was too feminine to admit or something. It couldn't possibly be. No. Are you just going to stand there staring at me? Hermione shook her head, walking into her room without a response and shutting the door behind her. She rolled over in her bed, taking a deep breath. I need to sleep. But when she finally shut her eyes, a faint scent of apples and hair gel filled the room.